Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. Part 2. Part 3. Chapter 22. What reason, Rig asked as we worked together, could the DDF possibly have to pretend your father was a coward? I can think of dozens of scenarios, I said, lying underneath Mbot beside him. 5 days had passed since the event, since we'd lost Bim and Morningtide. Working with Rig off hours, repairing the ship had become a welcome solace from my own thoughts, even if it was taxing to get up early like I had today, work on the ship, then go to class and endure Cobb's instructions all day. Today we were unhooking wires from Mbot's belly and replacing them with new ones. Some of the old ones seemed good, but Ring figured we should replace them all just in case. I wasn't going to argue with his expertise. I plugged in another wire and threaded it according to the instructions Rig had drawn out earlier. My light line glowed from within the ship, wound through the innards to give us light itself like a glowing wire. There are literally hundreds of reasons the DDF would lie about my father, I said as I worked. Maybe my father was in conflict with Ironsides about leadership and she decided to make him have an accident. In the middle of the most important battle the DDF had ever flown, Rig said. That's fanciful. Even for you, Spin. Fanciful? I demanded. Me? I'm a realist, Rig. Realist. Like all the times you made me go and pretend to slay star dragons with you as kids. That was battle training. He grunted as he worked on a particularly stubborn wire, and Doomslug helpfully imitated him. She sat on the stone ground near my head. Mbot was running diagnostics, whatever that meant, and mostly involved in him saying things like, or carry the one to give indication that the process is continuing as humans quickly grow bored without auditory stimulation. Are you sure you aren't misinterpreting Cobb? Rig said from beside me. You're sure? He nodded. I am. The official story is a lie, Rig. I've got proof. More like a vague possible confirmation. I can push Cobb until he spills the entire truth. Good luck with that. Besides, even if he did talk, the higher powers at the DDF aren't going to admit to lying. You stir up too much trouble and all you'll get to do is get yourself and Cobb removed from your positions. I will clear my father's name, Rig. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm just pointing out that your original plan, learning to fly, is still the best way to do that. First, become a great famous pilot, improve your family's reputation, and become someone who can't be ignored. Then, use your influence to clear your father's name. We'll see. Rig twisted, using the little space we had between Mbot and the ground, and pulled over his notebook to make some notations. These are his grav caps, he said, tapping his pencil at the mechanism. But I don't recognize the design, and he has them in an odd location. This black box over here, which is the only part I don't recognize, must be what houses his artificial intelligence. I don't dare try to break that apart, although it's obviously malfunctioning. How do you know? Can you imagine anyone intentionally creating him to act like he does? A valid point. What I'm interested in, Rig says, is his joints, his seals, and his atmospheric scoop. It's hard to explain, but they all feel tighter, more finely constructed than what we're using. It's only by a small increment, but Spencer, I think if we do get this thing flying, it's going to be fast. Faster than even our scout ships. That gave me a shiver to imagine. Rig grinned, holding up his notebook, then put it aside and dug in with his wrench to carefully begin disassembling the atmospheric scoop. I watched for a moment, holding a wire in the cramped confines, amazed. Rick seemed happy. We'd been friends for over a decade, and I was sure I'd seen him happy before. It was just no moment stood out. My memories of Rig were always him being anxious or nervous for me, or occasionally resigned to some terrible fate. And today, though, he was actively smiling as he worked, his face smeared with grease we'd been applying between wire replacements, and that did something to help me push through the loss that hung over me, the feeling of having failed my flight mates. Where did he get all these wires anyway? I said, getting back to work. I thought I was the only one who was going to be performing the petty theft. No theft required, he said. Zimming, that's the woman supervising my internship, gave me an entire bundle of them and some machinery to work on for practicing wire replacements. I figure what's better practice than to use it all on a real ship. Nice, so it's going well? Rig oddly blushed. What? I demanded. You know Emboss cockpit design? He said. What part? The pilot's seat and controls are on their own frame. It's complicated, but it reminds me of gyroscope. I think the seat is made to be able to rotate with the direction of g-forces. You know how it's really hard on a human to take g-forces that push the blood into the head or feet? Oh yeah, trust me, I know. But what if your seat rotated during difficult and extended burns so that the force was always in the direction easiest on the body and directly backward? That could really help with high-speed maneuvers. Huh, I said, interested, but more interested by the way Rig lit up as he talked. Well, I drew some schematics of that in my notebook, and well, Zimming might have seen them and assumed they were my own designs. She might think I'm a genius. You are. Not really, he said, building again. I copied just what I saw. Whoever built MBOT is a genius. You figured it out, I said. That takes as much as genius. It really doesn't. But, well, lie or not, I think this is a way we can get this technology to the DDF. Maybe I can figure out how this atmospheric scoop works and take that in as well. If I'm careful and don't make my discoveries look too suspicious, we'll be able to fight the Krell without exposing MBOT. And you get to be a hero, I said. A fake one, he said. But it didn't feel nice. I grinned and got back to work on my wires. Maybe we can bring this all to the DDF and prevent more pilots from dying. Thinking of that immediately put a damper on my mood. No matter what I could do for future pilots, I would still carry my feeling of frustrations and pains for the flight mates I've already lost. I redirected my thoughts back to the secret of what had really happened to my father, trying to think of every reason why the DDF would cover it up. That kept me occupied for half an hour or so until a ding rang up from the cockpit. Diagnostic finished, Mbot said in his helpful and not nearly dangerous voice. What did I miss? The discussions of Rig being a hero, and another about why the DDF would keep it secret. They claim my father fled from battle, but I know he didn't. I still think you're jumping to conclusions. What if my father was shot down by an accidental friendly fire? In the chaos of the fight, someone shot him by mistake, and they didn't want that embarrassment on their permanent record, so they claimed my father was fleeing and forced Cobb to lie about what happened. Rid grunted, loosening another nut. That one's almost plausible, more than the others, but it still has problems. Wouldn't the other pilots notice? Cobb said there were 4 people in the flight who saw it happen. We don't know how deep the cover-up goes, I said, and though the reports had names redacted, I was pretty sure by now that Ironsides was the flight leader. That would explain why she is so determined to keep me out of the DDF. You're stretching. You don't even know if the official report is a lie. He nodded. He kind of halfway sort of nodded, but it might have been a random twitch. Then give me a better theory for why they'd lie to everyone, I demanded. I can give one, Mbot said cheerfully. The greater argument for human originated chaos. The what? Rig asked. The greater argument for human originated chaos, GAFOC. It's an extremely popular and well documented phenomenon. There's a great deal of writing in my memory banks. And it is, I asked, plugging in a wire. GAFOC is related to free will. Humans are the only creatures that have free will. We know this because you declared that you have it, and I, being a soulless machine, must take your word that you are correct. By the way, how does it feel to be self-deterministic? I don't know, I said. Does it feel like tasting ice cream? Not really like that. I wouldn't know, of course. Mbot said, I wasn't built with the ability to comprehend flavors or make decisions for myself. You make decisions all the time, Riggs said. I don't make decisions. I simply execute complex subroutines in my programming, all stemming from quantifiable stimuli. I'm perfectly and absolutely rational. Rational, I said, in that you keep asking for mushrooms. Yup, he says. Say, do you suppose anyone makes mushroom-flavored ice cream? Sounds gross, I said. I only had ice cream once when I was a child and my father had merits to get some. Why would we eat something like that? I don't know, Mbot said. Greater argument for human-originated chaos, remember? Which you haven't explained yet, Rig noted. Well, I thought it was obvious. Humans have free will. Free will is the ability to make irrational decisions to act against stimuli. That makes it impossible for a rational AI to even ever fully anticipate humans. It means you're weird, Mbot added. I said, don't worry. I like you anyway. You said this was a popular theory, Rig asked. With me, Mbot said. And there's a lot written about it, Rig said. By me, Mbot said. Earlier today, I wrote 7,000 pages. My processors work very quickly, you realize. Granted, most of what I wrote is just humans are weird repeated 3,756,932 times. You were supposed to be running a diagnostic, Rig said. Rig, that took like 30 seconds, Mbot said. I needed something more engaging to occupy my time. Rig sighed, dropping another nut into the cup beside him. You realize this thing is insane? As long as you can make it fly, I don't mind. You can make it fly, right? I'm not insane, Mbot noted. Well, once we get these wires changed, you'll need to service the intakes, the thrusters, and the rest of the joints. I'll look over the atmospheric scoop while you do that, then break down his graph cache to check them over. If that's all in order, then the internals are in good shape. And from there, we have to figure out how to deal with that wing. I've got a portion of my internship coming up that deals with design and fabrication. However, I think I might be able to sneak away to order new parts for that wing. Though I might set you at pounding some bent portions back into shape. That will get us everything but the big one. The boosters, I said. Mbot had room for 3, a large one and 2 smaller ones. I think he'll fly fine with one central booster, but there's no way I'll be able to order something that large fabricated. So if you want to fly this thing, you're gonna need to find me a replacement. A standard DDF model should work. Anything from an A17 to an A32 would fit in that space with a little work on my part. I sighed, resting against the stone. Finally, I wiggled out from under the ship to get a drink. A new booster. That wasn't the sort of thing I could find in a junkyard or even steal off a random hover car. That was a grade A military tech. I'd have to steal a starfighter, which would be above petty larceny. It would be actual treason. No, I said. Fixing Mbot was a cool dream, but I couldn't go that far. I sighed, taking a long drink from my canteen, then checked the clock. 06:05. Rig wiggled out himself, grabbing his own canteen. I whistled to Doomslug, who whistled back in perfect imitation. I need to get going, I told Rig. I need time to slip into the women's room and cleanse before class. Sure, Rig said, clanging the wing of the ship with his wrench, though I don't know why you'd bother doing it there, as you could use the ship's cleanser. It has a cleanser, I asked, stopping in place. It has full biofacilities, including waste reclamation, as part of the pod in the cockpit. I hauled in some soap yesterday and got the system working. The controls are the little keypad in the left and rear of the cockpit. The canopy should dim for privacy, assuming you can trust the thing not to make fun of you while cleansing. It makes sense you'd have a cleanser, I said to Mbot. You said you're a long-range scouting and stealth vessel, right? Equipped with deep space missions, with 4 destructors and advanced atmospheric scoops and an extremely fast design. He's a fighter spin, but probably a long-distance one, as he said. So you had to be able to care for your pilot long-term. You traveled between stars. Cytonic hyperdrive is offline, Mbot said. But how did you do it, I asked. And what is a cytonic hyperdrive? And what were you scouting for anyway? I have no record of any of it, except you've forgotten it all. Almost everything, he whispered, except my orders. Lie low, take stock, and don't get into any fights. And an open database for cataloging local fungi. That's all I am now. I'm hoping Rig will be able to repair your memory bank so we can recover what you lost. If not, we'll refill your banks with new memories, better ones. Data doesn't suggest that either is possible. Data doesn't need to, I said. You'll see. Gaffok, Mbot said. I let you read the 7,000 pages I wrote, but I'm programmed to make humans feel inferior for their incredible weirdness. I stripped down, stuffed my clothing into the clothing bay, then positioned my feet toward the hole and slid in on the rollers. I closed the latch by my head and with a press of a button at my side, then activated the cleanser. I kept my eyes closed as I was bathed in suds and flashes of light. It felt decadent to have my own cleanser. Back in my neighborhood, the 3 cleansers had been shared among dozens of apartments. Your daily usage was precisely scheduled. I think I made you bad and feel bad anyway, didn't I? I'm fine, I said once the cleanser finished my face. I like the way you talk. It's different, interesting. I didn't invent Gaffok to make you feel bad. I just needed an explanation for why you said things that aren't true. You really hadn't ever heard of lying before? I don't know. Maybe I had, and it's simply gone. You're the only source of information I have. If you tell me things that aren't true, what can I commit to my memory banks? This puts me at a risk of retaining false data. That's a risk we all live with, Mbot. We can't know everything, and some of what we think we know is going to turn out to be false. That doesn't frighten you? Of course it does, but if it helps, I'll try not to lie to you. It does, thank you. He fell silent, so I relaxed, enjoying an extra long, luxurious cleansing, during which I imagined scenarios of flying Mbot into battle with guns blazing, saving my flight from certain doom like Joan of Arc on her loyal steed. They were good daydreams, even if my steed kept asking for mushrooms.